Just by injecting nanobots into somatic cells, the somatic cells will divide rapidly and eventually form a child. Her appearance is no different from that of a human, but she grows at an incredibly fast rate. At the age of 1, she can already walk and talk, and by 6, she has reached full adulthood. However, her mentality remains that of a 5 or 6-year-old child. Nonetheless, the scientists were very pleased with her, and they named her Morgan. One day, a scientist took Morgan to the forest to play. Morgan discovered a deer impaled by a stick. The next second, Morgan twisted the deer's neck and killed it. Her abnormal behavior raised concerns among the scientists, so they locked Morgan in a room. Who knew that while the caretaker was delivering food, Morgan hurt the caretaker with a fork? Morgan's attack on the caretaker drew the attention of the government, so they sent an agent named Layla to investigate the matter. Layla found the caretaker, but unexpectedly, the caretaker took all the blame on herself.
This wasn't Morgan's fault. It was my fault, really.
Morgan's not a she. It's an it.
The caretaker had looked after Morgan for 6 years, and she had long considered Morgan as her own daughter. Then, the scientists took Layla back to the laboratory. They showed Layla all the recordings of Morgan. It turned out that everyone in the lab was biased in favor of Morgan, but that had nothing to do with Layla. She entered Morgan's holding room, and strangely, before Layla even introduced herself, Morgan already knew Layla's identity and purpose. She took the initiative to confess everything she had done to Layla.
I didn't mean to hurt her. Kathy is a very sweet person. I would never want to do anything to hurt her. It was an error of judgment. I made a mistake.
But Layla could tell that Morgan was saying this on purpose. The next day, the government brought in a psychologist for Morgan, but before he could speak, Morgan once again began to confess.
I stabbed Kathy in the eye. It was an error. I shouldn't have done it.
Morgan's words raised the psychologist's suspicion, so he attempted to provoke Morgan. Under the psychologist's guidance, Morgan couldn't help but shed a single tear. The next second, her gaze turned vicious. Then, she suddenly lashed out and killed the psychologist. Noticing something was wrong, the scientists rushed in with a tranquilizer gun. At that moment, the lab suddenly lost power. Taking advantage of the blackout, Morgan escaped from the room. Layla picked up the tranquilizer gun from the ground and chased after her. She successfully tranquilized Morgan just as she was about to escape the lab. When Morgan woke up again, she was back in the lab. Her body was strapped down, unable to move. It turned out the scientists had decided to terminate Morgan.
I don't want to die. Please, Mother.
I'm not your mother, Morgan. You have no mother.
Faced with Morgan's pleading, the scientist couldn't bring herself to do it, so she decided to let Layla handle it. But just as Layla picked up the syringe, a tranquilizer dart struck her. It turned out that a scientist who loved Morgan had stopped her. When she woke up again, she found herself locked inside Morgan's holding room. Meanwhile, the other scientists were packing their bags. They planned to take Morgan abroad.